Hey there, thanks for watching. We continue on week 2 of our series, Learning to Walk with Jesus. Today's message is Learning Through Failure, Not Avoiding It. This message is based in Matthew 14 from verse 28 to 31. The big idea I want to share with you is this. Discipleship grows not by avoiding failure, but by learning from it. There's a small lizard in Central America called the common basilisk. It is sometimes nicknamed the Jesus Christ lizard because it can run across the surface of water. But here's the part most people don't know. The basilisk doesn't walk calmly on water. It runs fast. Its feet slaps the surface so quickly that creates tiny air pockets underneath, just enough to keep it from sinking. And the moment it slows down or hesitates, it sinks. Scientists say the basilisk survives not because it avoids the water, but because it commits fully once it steps onto it. Partial effort doesn't work. Hesitation is what causes it to fail. That image connects deeply with how humans learn. Babies don't learn to walk by avoiding falling. Athletes don't learn to swim by staying dry. In neuroscience, researchers have shown that failure is essential to learning because the brain actually rewires itself through mistakes. No errors, no growth. When it comes to faith and spiritual growth, however, many of us assume the opposite. We think maturity should look smooth, confident, and controlled. If we stumble, we assume something went wrong. That belief keeps many people safely in the boat. But Jesus never invites people into a failure-free life. He invites them into a learning life, a following life. And today's story, it reminds us that discipleship isn't defined by never sinking. It's defined by the courage to step out. The first point I'd like to bring to you is this. Faith sometimes looks like trying and failing. Matthew 14, from verse 28 to 29 says this. Lord, if it is you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. Peter's mistake wasn't stepping out. His failure happened after obedience. This matters. This matters because many of us have been taught that failure means we missed God. But this is the story. Peter, while doing exactly what Jesus invited him to do, he was doing in the obedience. The disciples who stayed in the boat were safe, but they were also unchanged. Discipleship is not about information transfer, but life transformation. And transformation always involves risk. You cannot follow Jesus at a distance and expect formation. Growth requires movement. Dallas Willard often said that grace is not opposed to effort, but to earning. Peter exerted effort, he tried, and yes, he failed. But this failure happened in motion. A related Bible story confirms this pattern. In Joshua chapter 3, Israel steps into the Jordan River before it parts. The water doesn't move until their feet do. God often meets people mid-step, not before it. Faith sometimes looks like wobbling obedience. And Jesus seems far more interested in people who try and fail than those who never tried at all. The second point is this. Failure doesn't end the lesson. It deepens it. Matthew 14, verse 30 and 31, part A says, "But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, 'Lord, save me.' Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him." Notice what Jesus does not do. He doesn't lecture first. He doesn't let Peter sink a little longer to teach him a lesson. He doesn't shame him in front of the others. Immediately, Jesus reaches. This is consistent with Jesus' character everywhere else in the Bible. When Elijah, for example, collapses in despair in 1 Kings 19, God doesn't rebuke him. He feeds him. He lets him rest. Only then does direction come. The early church understood this well. John Chrysostom wrote, "The church is not a court of justice, but a hospital." Failure in the hands of Jesus becomes formation. The scripture tells one unfolding story of God forming a people through weakness, not perfection. The Bible does not hide the failure of its heroes because those failures are part of how God's mission moves forward. Jesus steadies Peter before he speaks to Peter. Grace always moves first. The third point I want to share with you is that growth happens when we keep reaching for help. Matthew 14, now verse 31, part B says, "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And this is not a harsh rebuke. It is a relational question. Peter's prayer is one of the shortest in the Bible. "Lord, save me." 3 words. No theology, no polish, just honesty. And Jesus responds. Thomas A. Kempis wrote, "It is better to feel compunction than to know its definition." By compunction, he means an inner awareness that something's off, a piercing of the heart, a humility that comes when we recognize our need, not just intellectually, but emotionally and relationally. In other words, Thomas is saying it is better to feel your need for God than to be able to explain spiritual ideas perfectly. That's exactly what we see in Peter on the water. Discipleship is not about mastering concepts. It is about learning dependence. A powerful parallel appears later in Peter's life. In John chapter 21, after Peter's denial, Jesus restored him not through explanation, but through relationship and recommissioning. "Follow me," again. John Wesley believed that growth in grace happens through continued responsiveness, not flawless performance. We are shaped as we keep turning to God, especially when we fail. "Lord, save me." It's not the prayer of failure. It is the prayer of a disciple who knows where help comes from. Let's name fear of failure honestly. Fear of failure says, if I mess this up, I shouldn't have tried. Grace says, trying is how you learn. Fear of failure keeps us in the boat. Grace invites us onto the water. This week, identify one small area that fear has kept you from moving. A conversation, a habit, a step of trust. Don't aim for success. Aim for obedience. Let us sink in as I repeat one more time. Don't aim for success. Aim for obedience. And when you feel yourself sinking, don't clean up the prayer. Pray the honest one. "Lord, save me." Augustine wrote, "God gives what he commands." Jesus does not wait for you to swim perfectly. He reaches while you are still sinking. May you see and be able to understand that obedience is what matters. And everything that happens in the way is a learning pattern, is a learning step, is a learning opportunity. When you cry for help, know that Jesus hears you and will respond to you. God bless you.